for Foos. We're back with the last episode till we meet again.
Yeah.
So this is the till we meet again. You know, we patched up a little bit on the history for serial killers. We all know everybody's crazy. Everybody can kill somebody. So you gotta watch your back, watch your front, and watch your sides. So this time, I read a book. I don't know the author, but the book is called The Corporation, and he also has written a book called Paddywhack, and he has written a book called Havana Confidential, and the author of that book is Philip. His name is T.J. English, and I pretty much read all his books. I read Paddywhack, and Paddywhack has the history of Irish gangsters in America, all the way from the beginning when they got off the boat during the Civil War.
Paddywhack.
And they were sent to fight the Civil War. They told him, "You want to be a citizen? Yes, go kill some Southerners." "All right, mate. I'll pretend they're Protestants and I'll kill them." And so he wrote that book. And then he wrote a book called Havana Confidential, which is an amazing book. Or Nocturnal Havana. I think it's called Nocturnal Havana. And that book is like the history of the gang.
Havana Nocturne.
Havana Nocturne. And that book is about the history of the Italian Mafia in Cuban, in Havana, Cuba, before Fidel Castro took over the island. And Paddywhack is the history of Irish gangs, and you get to hear about Whitey Bulgar and the Westies, and
yeah, wow,
all the Irish gangs during Prohibition. Johnny O'Malley, and then there's another book that's just about which I just finished reading. It's called Coño, about the history of Cubans in America.
What does coño mean?
I mean, homie. What's up, coño?
Okay.
Actually, the book is called The Corporation by T.J. English, and it's the epic story of Cuban Americans in the underworld. And that's the book I read twice.
Which one was that one? The
T.J. English, The Corporation.
Oh, you were telling me about this one time.
Yeah, that's the
Cuban American underworld. Whoa.
The story of the American underworld, bro.
So this is our focus. This particular subject right here?
Yeah, and a lot of the Cubans that came to America, because they came in 3 stages.
Cubans.
Yes, there's the ones that came when Fidel became president.
Okay.
And then there's the ones that came when Batista became president.
Okay.
Batista
became before Fidel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
When Batista became president of Cuba,
okay,
he fought the Spaniards. He kicked the Spaniards out.
Okay.
You know, with the help of American artillery, but he fought in the revolution to reclaim Cuba as a free nation from the Spaniards.
I have no knowledge of Cuba.
Yeah, so it was him and a guy named Marty who wrote. He's a famous guy, Jose Marti. He's a poet, and he fought. He was during those times, and so when they kicked the Spaniards out, a lot of rich people left Cuba at the time.
Do you know what time this was? Like what era? Like what year? Like they were like getting rid of the Spanish?
Well, fucking what's his name? Fidel Castro came in 1959 and 60, okay. And Batista was president for 23 years. So,
okay, so like,
but before that,
so like 50, 40, so like the 40s and before.
Yeah.
Holy shit! So Spain had its grip on Cuba for that long. I did not fucking know that.
So
Spain's crazy, bro.
So Cuba, there's Africans in Cuba, but they're African, but they're not African American like we have. Those Cubans, they came to Cuba when I think the Spaniards brought them they brought them, bro, and they became sugar pickers in a plantation.
Okay.
And and the natives of Cuba and Puerto Rico and all those little Caribbean islands, they were called Taino Indians. They're none.
So this is like Puerto Rican origin stuff too, right?
But I'm just saying, this is
Yeah.
the type of people that were living in that area.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
So-
no,
Cuban were all Taino Indians, but then they mixed, with Afro Cubans,
okay.
and then so there's white people, like Fidel Castro. His father was born in Spain, and he was born here in America. He was born in Cuba,
Okay.
Fidel, and his brother, but like when because Fidel Castro also fought, in the liberation of Cuba from Spain. He fought to liberate
So he was part of Batista's movement to liberate Cuba from Spain.
Yeah, he was like in high school, bro, but he fought. He was like
Right.
a kid,
Okay.
and they took it because they had taken his dad's land and all that.
So at one time he was like ally of Batista's in a way, right?
Yeah, but I want to say like ally, like we're friends. They never hung out together.
Sure, but he was in
He
support of.
knew of him, but
He was in support of his movement.
Fidel's unknown at this time.
Right.
He's unknown.
Okay.
So when Batista became president, though, everything changed in Cuba, bro. Like for good, like for the first time in a long time. They were allowing black Cubans to be cops, and before it was all white, bro, like all white people
Okay.
in Cuba. They were prejudiced against Taino. They were prejudiced against people with dark skin and all that before
So
Batista
was
came
that
in.
what the revolution was about?
That's what Batista came in when he
Okay.
kicked the Spaniards out.
Oh wow.
And then but then Batista he became a dictator, bro, and he got rid of free elections first of all, so you couldn't vote him out no more.
Okay.
And then that fool said that okay, I'm not gonna run for president, but then he oversee that he ended up being president again. And
So he's like becoming corrupt and like drunk on
yeah,
power. Basically.
and he let a lot of outside influence come in and start businesses in Cuba. Like a lot of casinos started opening up, like better than Las Vegas, bro. And they were paying him, according to the book, the Italian mafia was paying him $1 million a week to just let it go.
Okay, so this is where I was gonna ask because the only stuff I do know like about Cuba and this like part is like from The Godfather and the casinos and stuff
Yeah.
and our American influence there. So is that when we started like having our own plantations, or do we have plantations, or
We never did.
we never did? Okay,
No, the Spaniards and the British did.
but we put casinos there.
Yeah, there were casinos there, but they were later on they were made better by the Italian mafia.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So because there was the British used to belong there too, bro, in Cuba, because they swept through there too, but it was the Spaniards who came and stayed at the end. That's why their flag looks red, white, and blue, almost close to a British flag.
Okay.
And so the Mayor Lansky, Lucky Luciano, and the 5 heads of the Italian mafia, they have a lot of investments in Havana, and they're paying bribes. They're fucking paying Batista $1 million a week, according to the book.
Whoa. And back then, we're talking like 50s, right? At this point, that's a lot of money.
40s.
$1 million in the 50s is
And
tons of money.
Cuba is a destination, bro, for vacation. Like if you watch in the fucking, if you watch commercials in those times, there was planes already. They had commercials. Come fly to Cuba. Come fly come fly to Baghdad.
I've seen the Pan Am.
And then Baghdad,
posters
bro,
for that.
Iraq.
In Baghdad.
Go fly to Iraq. Go to Saudi Arabia. Go to Iran. There were all places
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. These were all places where people were traveling to have a good time. And
can you imagine?
And then the Mafia had all these casinos, and there was a place called the Presidente Casino. That's why in The Godfather, the guy when the guy's talking, and we're not gonna tolerate no gorillas at the Presidente, and everybody laughs because the Presidente Casino was the biggest one, and they're talking about gorillas, the gorilla work.
Right.
So Fidel Castro, dude, he takes over the country, right? And there's this Cuban guy in Havana at the time. He's like a federal police for Cuba, and he's the go between the money and Batista. So he will go to the casinos and grab the money, put in a suitcase, and then he'll give it to Batista. His name was Miguel Battle,
Okay.
and he's considered like the godfather of Cuban underground, the Mafia. That fool was a not obviously a dirty cop, but he was a big time cop in Havana. And then when Fidel Castro took over the country of Cuba, he pretty much, Fidel Castro in the book I said that he backstabbed all his generals and went from a Marxist to a communist. But he did the switch at the last minute, and he got rid of free elections too, just like Batista. He got rid of free elections, and he got rid of media, bro. So a lot of people that played in bands, they had to leave. A lot of people like me, that guy fucking Miguel, fucking Battle. Jose Miguel Battle. He had to jam because like, he had nothing, bro. They already killed his dad. They took his land, and the Cuban government were gonna take everything from him.
So this is like at the point when like
Fidel already took over.
Like he's super corrupt and like
no, Fidel already took over.
Right, that's what I mean though. But like for a minute when he took over, he was still kind of like in a state of revolution, right?
Who?
Fidel Castro.
No, he just took over right now, and he's closing down the casinos and all that.
Right. Yeah, but what I'm asking is like because at some point he becomes corrupt.
We don't talk about that. It just talks about I don't know how corrupt he did. He had free medical for everybody and free dental and free education.
I know that, but I mean, this is like, right. I know that, but I mean, like when we like start thinking that things start to happen in Cuba, like he's not having elections and stuff like that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but they're not having, no, that's immediately, bro. That's immediately no elections. Right away.
Oh, wow.
Right away. No elections. Right away. No influence from the West. Right away.
Okay.
And then, but Fidel Castro, when he was doing speeches, he was doing his speeches in Tampa, Florida. Like he was doing speeches in Tampa, Florida to raise funds for a revolution at the time. And he was doing speeches in America at the time because he had support from a lot of people in
like
America.
Cubans,
this is before he was Cuban, before he switched to communist.
Okay.
When he was doing speeches like Tampa, Florida, bro. And in Tampa, Florida, he had a lot of support in Tampa, Florida because the people of Tampa, Florida were the first Cubans who left Havana. Those Cubans left because they didn't want to be part of Batista's regime.
Right.
Right? So they hated Batista.
Okay.
So anybody that was against Batista, they were going to support. So they got Fidel's back.
So Fidel would come to Florida and speak to them.
Only to Tampa.
Only to Tampa?
Yeah, because that's where all the Cubans were at the time.
Okay.
Because in Tampa, Florida, before fucking Fidel Castro was even considered a baby, Tampa, Florida was nothing but Cubans who had fled Cuba when it was during Spain. Cubans who left when Batista took over, and then in Tampa, Florida.
Have you been to Tampa?
For a million times, bro. In Tampa, Florida, there's still monuments of Cubans that were living there in early 1900s. It was loaded with Cubans, Spaniards, and Italians and rednecks, bro. Was all of Tampa, and they all had jobs rolling cigars. Like the Cubans,
Bad.
they had cigars, bro, in Tampa, where people roll up cigars all day, and there was no radio, there was no television. So what they had, they would call a guy called a lector, a lecturer,
Okay.
and the guy would stand up in a pulpit, and he'll read the New York Times here in Spanish, and then he'll read the New York Times in English, and then he'll read all the sports page while they're working, and then when he was done with the newspaper, he'll read Shakespeare,
No way.
and then he'll read other stuff. Philip, show that picture of that guy standing in front of all those cigar rollers.
There's a Tom Hanks movie where he does that like throughout America. Like he travels from place to place. And
Yeah,
just
that
reads
dude.
the newspaper to the town and gives them news and like information because there was no radio either back
Yeah,
then.
this guy did exactly the same thing,
Ah,
but with
that's-
a fresh paper, and he was paid by the workers union, bro. They were called lecturer, el lector, and they'll sit up there for about like they work for 8 hours. That fool be up there for 8 hours talking, bro, and reading Shakespeare. So
Does he take breaks in between?
yeah, just like when they take breaks, he takes breaks. Just like my Cuban friend in Tampa told me, yeah, man, here's these guys who never went to high school, who never got an education, but now they're learning about Shakespeare. That's why if you ever talk to an old Cuban, they're always self-aware, man. They're always into politics because it's already in the way
It's
engraved in them
Yeah.
from these days, right?
Wow.
So in Tampa, it was Cubans from the first generation, right?
Okay. This is really
So when Fidel Castro was when he took over Cuba, there was a big celebration in Tampa. And they celebrated like, yeah,
Okay.
finally Batista's out.
right.
You know, the guy that took our homes, the guy who robbed us, whatever.
So these are all white Cuban American.
Yeah, these guys
not
were
Cuban
the
Americans, but these are white Cuban refugees or
these guys were would you consider a Tory, like during the American Revolution, a Tory?
okay.
He was a supporter of the British.
Okay.
They call him a Tory. He was a supporter of the British.
Got it.
And anybody with anti-Tory was anti-British. So these guys were supporters of Spain.
Right. That's what I'm yeah, okay.
So someone coming in who kicked out the Spaniard, of course they're gonna love him. So they love
Right.
Fidel. But in Miami they hate Fidel. So here where the fight is, bro. Cubans from Miami who fucking hate Fidel, hate the Cuban from Tampa who supported Fidel.
What era is this now? Like or what years are we like
What?
Oh, I guess this is right when he took over. Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like where he's at, where they stopped.
Yeah, so when Fidel Castro took over Miami, who took over Havana, everybody that involved with Batista, anybody that was educated, anybody with any arts, they had to fucking bail, bro. So that guy, Jose Miguel Battle, he knows the days are numbers. So therefore, he paid somebody to get him a travel visa, and he got the fuck out of there, bro.
Of course.
And when he got to Union City, New Jersey, the fool started setting up because in Miami, in Havana at the time, there was already the numbers game in Miami, right? No, I'm sorry, in Tampa. In Tampa, there was already the numbers game, and in Miami, not Miami yet, but in Cuba too. But it was run by Salvatore Traficante. And if you guys seen that movie with fucking Al Pacino and fucking Johnny Depp, Donnie Brasco, when they go to Tampa, Florida, and they try to open up that fake casino, remember the guy that Al Pacino, Lefty, he had an envelope, and in the envelope it said from one brother to another, and he's gonna put a Sino and give it to Traficante. Well, that Traficante in that movie is the son of the guy I'm talking about.
Okay.
So this guy was born in Sicily, but he learned how to speak Italian. Well, he knows how to speak Italian, and he learned how to speak Spanish. So he was a gangster also in Cuba.
Right.
This guy. So he ran a game called The Numbers, but it's called Bolita, which is a little ball, which is the same thing. It's called Bolita games. You probably heard Joe Diaz talk about my mom. She ran a couple of Bolita games.
Is that like bingo?
No, like Lotto.
Like lotto.
A little ball.
Okay.
But the way everybody picks 3 numbers, and usually how it works is the winning number, it's the number that's printed out on the NASDAQ report, I think, on Wall Street. Because on Wall Street, there's always a number that's read about the total, whatever, and that's the number of the lottery every time.
Okay.
So they call it Bolita. So fucking this dude starts, he shows up to Union City, bro, and he starts opening up Bolita game under he went straight to the mob and said, listen, I'm going to start a fucking a numbers game here in New Jersey, and whoever I gotta pay. Let me know who it is. I'll go pay you guys a percentage. But I'm gonna be running the Bolita game in the Spanish Harlem. I'm gonna be running the Bolita game in Tampa and whatever, Union City, and then I'll give you guys a cut. Anybody moved in or tries to move in, you're gonna let me know, and that's how that fool started, bro.
Wow. So he came in amicably with the mafia.
Because he already knew them, bro. Because he was the go ahead. He already had a relationship.
So
with
it wasn't
them.
like he had to muscle in. He just was like, "Hey, I'll pay.
So
let me run some games so I can make some money."
When Jose Miguel Battle goes to America, right? So he starts doing the Bolita game, and then they started recruiting Cuban refugees, bro, who left Havana during Fidel Castro. They were recruiting them to go into Cuba and take over Cuba, bro. The Bay of Pigs.
Oh.
So fucking Jose Miguel Battle, he jumped on that shit, dog. Put me in, coach. He goes, la pelea para la patria. The battle for our patriothood, you know?
Okay.
So he said he joined the Bay of Pigs, right? Him, his fucking brother, and his cousin, and they're called the Battle Brothers.
This is the Bay of Pigs. Like, it's a military. It was a military.
It was a military coup during John F. Kennedy to go into Cuba, unbeknownst to anybody, and kill Fidel. Because Richard Nixon said when he was running against JFK that he's weak on the Cuban He's weak on the Cuban crisis.
Did they use our troops or did they use Cuban people?
We're getting there, bro.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
We're getting there.
I'm sorry.
We're getting there.
Okay.
So Jose Miguel Battle and a shitload of Cubans, bro, from America joined this fatigue, and they went to go train with real Marines and troops in Nicaragua for this battle.
Whoa,
bro! And they got our tick because Nixon has said during the election that JFK was weak when it comes to the communist and Cuban crisis. So it was his way to redeem himself, right? So these fools go in, bro. They're supposed to go in and they train in Nicaragua, bro, for a long time. And then when they got to, they make Jose Battle was leading this shit, like in his 30s, early 30s. Chubby motherfucker, bro. They go over there, and at the last minute, JFK pulls the plug on it, bro, because he's getting he's not getting a lot of when you say when people don't approve, not enough approval ratings.
Yeah,
he's not getting enough approval for the mission.
Right, his approval.
And it's gonna be a bad mission already as it is.
Right,
it's gonna make them look bad because supposedly like they were not to do something like that, right? So at the last minute, bro, they pull the plug, and those fools were defenseless out there in Cuba. And fucking...
Oh, no.
And Cuba's there with planes looking for these fools. Like, they're dropping food.
How many of them are there?
Like 200. How many, Philip?
Wow. I've heard of I've only heard like people reference Bay of Pigs in like war movies and shit, but I didn't know that this was like
So
I didn't know anything about this.
So the Bay of the Pig guys go over there, bro. Long story short, Fidel captures those motherfuckers. A lot of those motherfuckers, bro.
Oh no.
Fidel captures them.
No.
Yeah, because they took and then the hatred for JFK began right there.
Fuck yeah, dude.
So
Holy cow.
so they turned their backs, and the ones that they caught, they fucking took them, bro, and they paraded them around Cuba, like the traitors, the invaders, they were calling them.
Oh man.
Right. So
these guys are dead.
So then, while this shit's going down, bro, Cuba said, "Fuck that shit. These two trying to invade our country."
Right.
Russia, come and bring those missiles over here.
Ah. And that's
Because these fools are trying to fuck us up.
That's when we had that standoff?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
what was the name of that?
That was the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Cuban Missile Crisis, yes.
In the middle of the night, they brought in missiles, bro, into fucking Cuba. And a plane that was passing by, they fucking, they were flying by, bro. So they made a deal to get rid of those fucking missiles. And but you got to release those fucking guys from the Bay of Pigs, which was fucking Jose Miguel Battle was in that group.
Okay.
Then they got released, bro.
Okay.
Okay.
So they got. Did any of them get executed?
Bro, or they got none of them got. Some of them got murdered. There was a couple of Cubans that went over there to fight who were 16, 17.
Yeah.
They got killed, bro. Some of them got killed, but
the majority got away.
Not a lot, dude. A lot of them were killed.
Oh wow.
But they were angry, bro. They were angry.
Yeah,
so then these guys, the Bay of when they released the Bay of Pigs Cubans, they were already close, bro. Like they don't know how to act around no one else, or unless they were Bay of Pig guys. So they became their own group, bro. Like their own hood. Like they started. Some of those guys became a terrorist group, bro. Like when Fidel went to go speak at the fucking United Nations right here in the United States.
Yeah.
There was a group of Cuban terrorists. I don't know their names, but they were gonna blow him up right there, bro.
So they I mean, I can fucking see how that you go under our government, under this white dude who's like, yeah, we're gonna take care of you. We're gonna back this shit up. You guys can go there, fuck shit up for us. We'll fucking bring you back, and then you get abandoned, and then when you finally get to come back, you're radicalized. Fuck that they got you out. Fuck them for putting you in that situation.
So
my comrades are dead. Holy shit. Yeah, okay.
So those Bay of Pig guys, they were allowed to join the military, bro, with a higher rank already because they were already trained in Guatemala or Nicaragua, wherever they trained. So a lot of them became officers again. But every time there was a plot, there were so many plots to get Fidel Castro that these guys were involved in, and when those fools were locked, like when two of the guys that were involved in the in the documentary, it's on HBO right now. It's called the Plumbers. It's about that guy who broke into the Democratic office to steal information during the Watergate scandal.
Yes.
Gordon, what's his name? Gordon Hubert? Gordon Gilby?
For the Watergate?
Gordon Liddy.
Gordon Liddy.
Gordon Liddy.
G. Gordon Liddy.
Gordon Liddy, right?
Yeah.
But there was a couple of Cubans with him too, bro. They never mentioned that.
They don't mention that.
And those Cubans were part of the Bay of Pigs.
And they were on our side when they came back.
No, when they were on, but I'm talking about these Cubans were with the Watergate guys.
Right.
They broke into the Democratic office.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
That's how high some of them made
that's right. There was 3 people that broke into the office, right?
Yeah, and the other ones who unnamed, but they're named, they were part of the Bay of Pigs.
Oh, wow.
So when those guys went to prison,
yeah,
those guys were seen as heroes, bro. They were seen as heroes to the Cuban people.
Because they did, okay, yeah.
Because they considered that anything that was JFK, anything with Nixon was anti-communist,
Right.
so they had his back.
And these people hated communists. Okay. It's so confusing growing up because I grew up in a world where they were always like, "Oh, Fidel Castro's a bad guy, bad guy, bad guy." And then when I got into college, it was like, "No, he's a good guy. He's just like mislabeled." And then like there's people who were in between who were like they were like he did good things and then he became corrupt and then started doing bad things. You know, and it's like there's like a lot of confusion around that for me. Like I said, I have no everything you're telling me is fucking brand spanking new to me. Other than I knew that he started a revolution, like he was a lawyer, he started a revolution, and he took over Cuba and became a dictator.
That fool could have played for the Yankees, bro.
That's what I heard. He played pro ball. So I didn't know any of this stuff, and
So,
I didn't know the involvement with fucking
So all the
Watergate.
gangsters from Cuban, other Cuban mafia gangsters, underworld, all came from the Bay of Pigs.
So we're the guy. What's his name again?
Jose Miguel Battle.
Where's Jose Miguel Battle now? At
He died in
Watergate?
2007.
Where is he now during Watergate? Like after Watergate,
He's in
happens,
prison.
He's still in prison.
Because he left the country at one time because they were looking at him for a couple of murders.
Okay.
So he left. He went to go live in Spain, and while he was in Spain, his brother was running the bolita game in New Jersey.
Okay.
But when he got back from Spain, a lot of the guys were selling coke, and he was totally against coke. And that Cuban coke dealer, I think his name is Papaluro or Baboluro. He killed Jose Miguel Battle's brother because he was totally against cocaine. You know, he's an old school mafia guy, bro. He was all about just the gambling and,
Right.
the prostitution and all that.
Does Jose Miguel Battle ever get out of prison?
Yeah, bro. He was walking around free in 2007.
He was
30
in
years.
jail for 30
But running
years.
shit from in there, right?
When he was convicted, what year was he convicted and sentenced? 77.
But he also locked up and he also was locked up in the 50s too and the 60s, huh?
So he didn't have a lot of time free before he died.
Yeah, the Cuban Exile, bro.
It's crazy to me.
But they're considered heroes to America, huh?
That's interesting.
Jose Miguel Battle was probably one of the biggest of all Cubans that ever. Supposedly, what movie is taken from him?
Oh, Tony Montana. Did you guys see Tony Montana in there?
It was the real Scarface.
Wow. But the Scarface in the movies is cocaine guy, and Jose Miguel Battle was a gambling guy.
Yeah.
But he didn't make no money off of coke. Or did he
I'm
also
pretty sure he collected money from people,
on coke?
but I'm
as
not
well?
pretty sure he made no deals.
But he was because he was a mafioso. But the biggest gamut was the bolita,
which is a little ball.
little ball. How cute. And but he'd also ran other shit too. So he probably had like drug rings.
Whatever, man. Whatever they
Wow.
get money on. Huh? Yeah.
Was he part of the movie making process? Like he didn't know that it was about him at all. Whoa.
Yeah, man.
Fuck yeah, dude.
But when he was living in when he said he lived in Union City, I went to North Bergen, New Jersey, where Joe Diaz was born, and I don't know if I was in Union City or I was in Humboldt, but when I was hanging around with Joe Diaz's cousin, he's Panamanian, Uncle, I forgot his name right now, but I was hanging out with him, and he took me to where they grew up, and he pointed at a place, and he said, "Man, that used to be the biggest Cuban restaurant club back in the early '80s. It was packed with nothing but Cubans and suits." He goes, "Me and Joe Diaz, we used to pretend we got run over by them to get money."
That's definitely something. Sounds like right on par with that.
When Fidel, there's a documentary about these performers in Cuba, It's called I don't know what like I can't think about it right now, but they went to Cuba and they interviewed a bunch of Cuban performers because a lot of people left Cuba,
Right.
but these performers didn't leave Cuba.
Okay.
Okay, so the whole documentary was about them. Like one of the singers, he was he was a fucking a gas station attendant, but they brought him out to sing a song, and like he was singing during the heydays
Okay.
before Fidel took over.
Um.
And they had a big concert for them. And
So he went from being like a gas station attendant to being a famous singer in Cuba.
no, bro, you're not listening. He was a famous singer already.
Okay.
But when Fidel Castro became president, the leader, he couldn't sing no more. He became a gas station attendant. And when they were doing a documentary about these people, they found him at a gas station
Where, here?
in Cuba
In Cuba.
because he couldn't leave the country.
Oh, because he couldn't even leave.
Couldn't leave. Everyone else left, but they were interviewing the singers and artists, people who didn't leave.
And they fucking had like regular jobs.
So this guy was a gas station attendant, and then they show him like bringing him out of that shit to go sing at the fucking Carnegie Hall in New York, and they show him black man walking around Manhattan, and he's thrown off by the buildings. He goes, "I came out of maravilloso. How marvelous is this?"
He's never seen anything
Ever.
like this.
And then I thought it was cute when they were showing they went to this vintage store and they had a bunch of dolls. He recognized all the old school ones, like el gordo del flaco, los tres locos, and he recognized the Three Stooges immediately,
Right.
and Laurel Hardy, and the Marx Brothers.
Yeah.
But the newer ones, he had no idea. Like there was a Pee Wee Herman, no. But that's how old their TVs are back then.
Yeah. Cause
Or when shit shut down was 60. So everything he knows is from 60 and beyond.
So it's like trapped in time.
So he knows comedy, the Laurel Hardy. He knows the Little Rascals. He knows the Three Stooges.
Right.
But he doesn't know anything past after Fidel.
Right. Did they not have TV after that, or did they have their own TV that just like they watched their own things? Like, was there a movie?
Bro, you're not
industry?
getting it, bro. You're not getting it. Fidel Castro's communist. He took off TVs.
I understand that.
Yeah, but
But
they're not gonna be new TV because there's no new programming because it's communist. So everything they watch is before communists.
I understand that, but they have radio programs still. They still have like.
It's a communist country. When
Okay.
you're communist, you watch what I want you to hear.
I know that.
That's all they have.
But that's what I'm asking. So, like in North Korea, they have their own TV
But that's
stations
Korea.
and their
That's
own
Korea.
movies.
This is Cuba,
But that's
bro.
a communist country too.
But in
so
Cuba-
you're saying in communism they do that, and that's what I'm asking. Did he have his own state-run TV, his own state-run
Everything's
media?
state, bro. There's no television.
But there's no movies.
There's no
like,
movies.
because like in like North Korea, they have
All the movies they watch are the movies before he was there.
Right.
There's no movie
I get what you're
past
saying,
60.
but I'm trying to ask you questions to see what else is happening at this time.
That's
'cause
it.
I'm completely like unaware
Like
of what's
like
happening.
if you go to like when Fidel Castro took over, America started a no trade embargo with Cuba. That means we're not gonna do no trade with Cuba.
Like no fucking with them at
No
all.
trade. So the only people that do trade with them is Japan, Russia, maybe Mexico, and everyone else. So all their cars are from the 1950, but the motors are from Toyota.
That's why they look like 57 Chevys.
Like all their
and shit
cars are
out
from.
there.
I'm telling you, bro. What the year that he came in with 59, that's the last car that's there is 59. Because there's a trade embargo, so there's no new movies coming in. There's no fucking radios coming in, and they're barely getting shit. Like in Cuba, they're allowed to have a restaurant, but it has to be your house.
Okay.
You can't buy a new building and make it a
There's
restaurant.
no like new businesses happening.
And they're all
nothing
state
like
owned
that.
too.
Wow.
They're all state owned.
And this is like because he didn't want no Western influence, so that meant like nothing could get in. Like kind of just seal ourselves off right where we left off.
Yeah.
That's it. That's fucking crazy.
But meanwhile, he's watching everything.
he's watching TV over here. He's listening.
No, he's watching everything. Like all the movies that came out after 60, he's watching them.
Wow.
Just like the guy from Korea is watching everything.
Yeah, totally.
He knows all pop culture, but his country doesn't.
Fuck.
The pop culture that the leader of the communist country of Korea, the pop culture that he knows, the rest of the people in his country
they have
don't
no
know.
clue what we're doing over here. Yeah, that's how I
That's
feel.
That's how Fidel is. He knows what we're doing, but the country doesn't know what we're doing.
I heard he was like a big fan of our baseball.
Yeah, he was almost traded to the Yankees.
Yeah, I knew that he was a good baseball player.
So getting back to this guy, right?
Yeah.
So the documentary about him and all these singers, bro, and the story is crazy, dog. Like this fool could have been like the biggest singer in the world, but he's not. But but he sings really good, man.
Yeah. Do we have any samples?
I do, bro.
Nice. This is a really interesting thing for me to think about because it's like I just feel like how it must be to go from being like a like because I know that like I remember watching old movies that took place like Godfather where Cuba was this like destination island. It was really beautiful. There's dancing girls and stages.
His name is Compay Segundo.
Compay Segundo.
What up? Let him play. And they found him in a gas station.
Wow, dude.
So during the Batista days, when they were playing in the casinos, he was playing in the casinos, bro.
It's like if someone took over and was like, I don't want no Mexicans fucking working good jobs, and then like me and you have to go work at a gas station.
Wait, what?
Like if someone came into our country and was like, I don't want none of these people fucking working, or just a particular group of people, and it's including us, and we don't get to do this anymore. We don't get to like entertain. We don't get to be at fucking like
or influence
theaters, and we have to go like work fucking like be a janitor at a school or like be a fucking. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's like. It must be hard to leave your passion to go do something that you weren't meant to do. Like, that's such a fucked up thing that happened to that guy, I feel like. Remember that guy that they found on the side of the road that had the, like, golden voice or whatever?
Wait, guys, can I have a quarter?
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that, you know what I mean? But that guy just did a lot of drugs and fucked himself up.
Did he go back to drugs?
He couldn't maintain the lifestyle. He couldn't deal with like with.
They tried to give him a job.
They got him a job. They gave him money. He was working on like the Today Show or something like that, and I just don't think he could deal with it. You know, like I don't think you could just hand money to somebody who's homeless or fucked up like that and be like, "Well, here you go, straighten yourself out," and then
Coño!
and then they're like, "All right, let's do it."
When I was a kid, I did notice because those were the Cubans who left Tampa, who got to Tampa, were leaving Batista, right?
Right.
But then we come to the 80s, right?
Okay.
And that's when that movie Scarface came out with Al Pacino.
I remember.
And he was part of the Marty boat, I guess. And a lot of people from Miami were writing letters, to the president at the time. Hey, man, my family, my uncle, my grandmother, my kids, they're still suffering under the Fidel Castro leadership in communist Cuba. We need help, right? And Cubans are fucking conservative, bro. All of them they're straight up. They're all fucking anything that's anti-communist or anything that's close to being communist, socialist, they're anti, bro.
It surprised me when I first heard that, but I get it now.
They don't want to go back to that. They don't want to go back to that. They know they know what living under that shit is. They witnessed it. They don't want no part of that shit. So so they're writing letters, right, to fucking pleading that bring our family members back. So finally, I don't know if it was Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan at the time. They said, all right. So they struck a deal with Fidel. And Fidel said, all right, I'm going to send all their fucking family members with over there. But he didn't, bro. That fool opened up all the prison gates
And let out all the prisoners.
and all the homosexuals and all the transgenders and everybody in a wheelchair, anybody with one arm, anybody who was a thief, anybody that he didn't like under his leadership no more. And he put them all in one boat, bro. And he sent them to wherever they went. And they all landed in Miami. Some of them ran out, bro.
That's that beginning scene of Scarface,
Yeah,
right?
but that's all true. Some of them ran out, bro, and ran into the city, bro. And the crime rate, look up the crime rate after that fucking Fidel Castro released that boat in Cuba, in Miami. How big it went up.
In the movie, they call it the Cuban crime wave.
But see, those Cubans came in the 80s, right?
Right.
But the Cubans that came and left Miami during the first couple of years that Fidel was there, those Cubans came with cash, came with a lot of money, came with a lot of influence, bro, because they were part of Batista. So they started opening up businesses, bro. And here in Florida, there's a pharmacy that's owned by a Cuban guy, and it's probably the biggest pharmacy. It beats out CVS. Like CVS is trying to buy it. Philip, look for the biggest Cuban pharmacy in Florida. I think it's called Alfredo's or Almeda's.
They call it Mariel boatlift.
Mariel boatlift. There it is.
And was a mass immigration of Cubans who traveled from Cuba, Mariel Harbor, to the United States between 15th of April and 31st of October, 1980. The term Marielito, plural Marielitos, is used to refer to refugees in both Spanish and English. Well, the exodus was triggered by sharp downturn in the Cuban economy. It followed on the heels of generations of Cubans who had immigrated to the United States in the preceding decades.
So when that happened, we ended up getting a lot of Cubans over here in Echo Park too. Like if you go to Echo Park, there's a statue of a Cuban leader that fought for the Cuban freedom against Spain, Jose Marti. There's a statue of their hipster trying to take it out, but no, motherfuckers, that's just staying. And all of Echo Park used to be all Cuban. There used to be a Cuban travel agency there. There's the guy there who read cards. There's still a coffee shop that sells Cuban products, Cuban bakeries. It's called Café Tropical. The original owner was fucking Cuban.
I've heard you talk about
He
this
retired.
place.
He passed away. Also, Portos in Downey, Portos in Glendale, Portos in Northridge. Cuban owned, man. Big influence on their food there. A lot of clubs were owned by Cubans from the Cubans that came in with a lot of money. They started opening up a lot of businesses. And let me tell you something, Butch. So many Cubans showed up during those times to Miami that America was just shipping motherfuckers to California. And that's how we got Cubans in Echo Park.
I wondered how that happened.
Yeah.
So they would send them all the way over.
They sent them out. Whenever there's a big community of Cubans, they were sent there by somebody.
Wow. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah. Also, Cubans, there used to be a program called Wet Feet. I think it's called Wet Feet. Look it up, Philip. And it meant that if Cubans are caught on the beach, on sand, they become instant American citizens. If they get caught in the ocean on a boat, they get deported.
Back to Cuba.
Yeah. But if you make it to land, you're free.
So that was like our policy for asylum here.
For the Cubans.
Wow. Dude, Mexicans can't even get that fucking
No, we just
deal.
call wetbacks.
Yeah.
It's called wet foot, dry foot law.
We need
Wet feet, dry feet policy, and we were called wetbacks. Also, also a lot of Cuban players at the time and Cuban boxers during the 76, 68, 80-something Olympics, they were they were they were leaving Cuba to join American sports, bro. Like Jose Puig from the Dodgers, he left Cuba to illegally fled the country to play. Cuban player Luis Tiant, that fool left Cuba and never went back. There's a documentary about him meeting his family 40 years later. Uh, um, Also, Desi Arnaz, he left during when Batista took over.
Yeah,
by the
I was
way,
gonna say he looks like a Batista motherfucker.
no, he left when Batista took over.
He left.
His
when
family
Batista,
was ruling. Was there? They had businesses during Spain.
like he's a Spaniard.
Yeah.
He's more of a Spaniard than he is a Cuban.
Well, he's born in Cuba,
He's born in Cuba,
but he
yeah.
left during Batista.
I feel like I don't know, bro. Like if you leave your country just because, I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
People are gonna talk shit to me now, but I just feel like it's racist. It's very racist.
Yeah, they call it he defected from Cuba. They call it. I remember George Lopez had a joke. He goes, Cuban citizens, they could leave Cuba with a baseball glove and show it to them across the border and say, I'm defecting. He goes, Mexicans should do that, man. Walk into America playing soccer. Hey, you came here illegally. No, I'm defecting. History for fools, coño.
History for
And
fools.
that's all I know about Cuba. Look, if you want more, look up Jose Miguel Battle and the Battle Brothers. It's an interesting story. TJ English. Go check out the corporation. Havana Nocturne. Patty Whack. And man, thank you, Butch, for coming out here and using your Airbnb ducats to fucking do this badass podcast.
Love it.
The what podcast?
The HFF
There it is.
for Fools podcast.
HFF History for Fools.
I'm gonna get HFF tattooed on my stomach, like right here.